Okay, I took a break for the holidays, and then we had some bad weather and all kinds of things going on. But and I wasn't going to even start again until the 1st of February. But in light of the California fires, I um, I felt a need to do this. Plus some other things that are going on, like Pete Hegseth, who is going before the Senate committee today. I have never seen. Well, I have, but not recently anyway. Um, Democrats act more horrid, more insensitive, more um, almost like they were demon possessed. And I'm not exaggerating by any means or by any length of anybody's imagination. It is it is wrong at every level the way that he's being treated. Now, solely because, and it was very apparent, solely because he is totally against the military paying for transgender surgeries and DEI training, CRT training, all these woke leftist political agenda things in the military, which I served in for 23 years as an enlisted guy and as a commissioned chief warrant officer. I can tell you during my time of service, none of this would have happened for several reasons. One, the country hadn't quite gone insane. Democrats weren't, they were the older Democrats. They didn't act like these new batch of people in there, and some of the old ones. Um, like some of the ones that say they're Cherokee Indian, but Pocahontas wasn't Cherokee anyway. So, but there were lots of different ideologies um, back then that were not counter effective to the military's primary mission, and that was to keep the peace and to be war ready at all costs. And that is the number one priority. And Pete has said that repeatedly, that we need to fix our priorities. We need to have an accountability of the money being spent in the Pentagon, because right now, and you'll see this, they can't account for lots of money. So anyway, to let you know, he's being treated so unfairly. I still believe he'll be confirmed, and I think it's about time that we had somebody in there besides some general who retired or some academic who no, doesn't know any more than what never been in uniform, possibly. Well, I take it back. He had to have been in uniform, but um, I just believe that we should allow somebody in there who's younger, has a different vision, um, who actually served in combat in Iran and Afghanistan, uh, guarded prisoners at Guantanamo Bay at Gitmo. So let's just sit back and watch what happens. But if peace not confirmed, I'm going to be very disappointed in the Republican Party. So without further ado, let me get into this on the fire, because right now this is insane what's going on in California. I have a really good friend that lives there. I have some other friends that live there. Jerry, if you're listening to this, man, I hope you're okay there. I'm pretty sure that where you're at, there's no fires right now, but and I'm praying it stays that way for you and your family. Um, One of the things that really bother me about what's going on in California is that the Democrats have come out and said, oh, let's not do this name calling, let's not do pointing fingers. There's plenty of time for that, and we'll air our grievances behind closed doors. Well, you know what? We don't want you to air them behind closed doors. We want the American people to be able to hear what they are, because there is infighting within the Democratic Party. There's infighting within the Democrats in California. And I see justifiably, because the mayor of Los Angeles and the governor of California are two of the most incompetent people on the planet, right up there with Joe Biden. So let me get into this, and we'll get into what it is. Now, first and foremost reason is incompetence of the elected officials and the unelected bureaucrats. Now, bureaucrats in California and also in our government in Washington, D.C., is 98% of the problem. You say, well, that's an awful large percentage of the problem. It is, because they're unelected and they've been working there for decades. And they actually wield more power than those we elect to represent us. And that is dangerous. Miss Quinones, who is the water czar in LA, she earns $750,000 a year. $750,000 a year. I mean, wow. That's more than the President of the United States. President Trump, who doesn't take any salary, only makes $400,000 a year. So you're telling me that this water czar in California is worth more money than the President of the United States? I don't think so. Coming under fire for her mismanagement of the reservoirs. Draining a reservoir during fire season? How insane is that? But that's only, doesn't even scratch the surface about the mismanagement of water in California. Oh no, it gets worse. And $750,000 a year paid, that sum, to be incompetent, she, in my opinion, should be arrested for criminal negligence. That's just blatant criminal negligence. Not to mention the mayor going off to Africa. Now, I understand that she is African American, but if her ancestry is more important than the elected office that she ran for to take care of the city of Los Angeles, then she needs to be removed too, and she should be arrested for criminal negligence. In 1994, Clinton's admin entered into an agreement with California to save the Delta's smelt. Now, I'm not going to tie this to what happened last Tuesday through where we're at today, which is Tuesday. So it's been a week today that these fires started. It was called the Delta Bay Accord, another left-wing extreme deal whereby they took water away from farmers in that area, and what could possibly be additional water where people can actually water their yards and have more drinking water and whatever, because they're taxpayers and they deserve it. I mean, they're humans and they deserve it, more so than the smelt. The smelt has nothing to do with the survival of this country we live in or the world we live in. It'll survive without the smelt. And they kind of look like sardines. I don't know if you ever saw a smelt. I didn't know what it was. I had to look it up. I started checking it out. Smelt in the Bay Area is not the only place there's smelt in the world. But they was given priority over the humans and the rights of the people to have a choice and a voice. These fish are not as important as people, and not more important than the people of California. They need to force the government to manage the water system and find a solution so farmers and the people have enough water for their farms and drinking, let alone fire protection. But it's not just the water that causes the fires. No, it gets deeper. 9 years ago, President Trump talked, before he was even president, talked to Gavin Newsom about not clearing the underbrush in the forest and taking care of the forest and cutting down dead trees and doing all these things. It's called conservation. They just want to talk about conservation, but they're not doing conservation. Although they're more concerned about you not having a gas stove or driving an electric vehicle so they can control your movement, because you can't go as far in an electric vehicle without charging it up. It takes a lot less time to fill your tank than it does to charge your car and then go proceed on your trip. So they can control your movement. They know where you are. They know where you charged your car. They can keep tabs on you all the time if you're electric. One, the runoff of the spring mountain thaw brings water that could or should be captured into reservoirs, and it's not. Two, being that most of the fires are coastal, Israel, for more than 2 decades, has been capturing water from the Mediterranean Sea and then processing it using reverse osmosis to remove salt and make it potable. Yet the far left Democrats decided to save the schmelt. You know, and I'm all about taking care of nature and the country that we live in, and we should take care of it. We should recycle. We should do all these things. But I guarantee you, and I'm not a scientist, but I read reports, and you can find them if you do a little research. There are only about 5,000 real climatologists in the country. I mean, the rest of these scientists are scientists, but they're not climatologists. And most of these climatologists do not agree with the left's narrative about climate change being caused by human and their use of fossil fuels. Do your due diligence, do some research. Don't believe everything CNN and MSNBC or the leftist government tells you. The mountain runoff waters were diverted into the sea, leaving reservoirs dry, meaning no water at the hydrants. Now, there was one hydrant supposedly that was defective, and you know what? They could live without that one hydrant, but all of them being dry because the reservoir, and one particular reservoir, was drained. So here again, we see LA mayor went off to Africa, even though they were forecasting high fire danger, and she promised not to go overseas, not to leave the country if she was elected. So she placed what was happening in Africa over her own city. It's criminal. They should have a recall election and get her out of there. When you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and that is electing incompetent people with insane ideologies, expecting different results, is called the definition of insanity. Why do we continue to do the same insane things with these far left leaders in California, who acted like Nero of Rome, playing his fiddle, doing nothing as California burned? And then when they're asked the tough questions by residents, they poo-poo them off. Like, what you think is not important. You just live here. I'm the governor. I'm better than you. I'm higher than you. I'm smarter than you. And he's not. He is a legend in his own mind. And, excuse me, I might add, related to Nancy Pelosi somewhere or another. They must all be investigated and held accountable. Accountability is something we lack in this country. Just like we go back to leaving Afghanistan and all of the military equipment that was left there, the 13 American heroes who were killed unnecessarily there, people trying to hang on to an aircraft as it takes off from the runway. It was a disgrace to this country, and not one person was fired over it. No one person was held accountable for it. And Joe Biden is the buck stops there guy, and he is a primary person to be held accountable. Okay, but he can't even hold himself accountable, and obviously not his son, who he pardoned. Although I gotta say, if it were me, I probably would have pardoned my kid too. But the idea of it all is that he denied everything, even though we all knew Hunter was guilty. That's probably the saddest part. California state and local liabilities right now in the state of California is $1.6 trillion. That's nothing compared to the national debt. But we're talking about the richest state in the union. California has oil and gas. They have Silicon Valley. They have most of the tech companies, high-tech companies. They have lots of wealth. They got Hollywood, who brags about the not having by not taxing the wealthy enough. But I don't see any of them writing checks to the federal government. So who cares about what Hollywood thinks? I mean, they're not even relevant. Half of them are really bad actors. You want to see some good actors? Get a hold of what is it called? BritBox. I think that BritBox is available through Prime and Amazon. British actors are 100 times better than our actors. So I hate to say it, but it's true. The people in California pay more taxes than anybody in the country, and they pay more for everything than anyone else in the nation. They have no surplus, no rainy day fund, and no balanced budget in the foreseeable future, all because of gross mismanagement of leftist ideology that is bankrupting the state. It's more important to them to support illegal immigration than it is to take care of the homeless. And they try to put up these places which are telling you that they're homeless places, but they're actually not homeless places. They're for illegals. These people came in illegally. A lot of them are criminals. A lot of them bring in disease because they're not getting vaccinations against different things. Like we have whooping cough is raising in this country right now. Other diseases. How do we know they're not bringing COVID back in a big way? We don't know that. But we do know this. There are also terrorists coming across the border. And if we can capture 100 of them, how many didn't we capture? This, as do many great Democratic-run states. The people who are suffering from this extreme ideology continues to elect them. Why do we continue to elect them? Because a lot of these people, a lot of them in California, have been brainwashed in the universities like Berkeley and USC. Okay, thinking that well, capitalism is bad, religion is bad, everything's bad except LGBTQ, transgender operations, abortion, all these other things. They're good, they're moral, and people who are against them are immoral. I could go on for days. So what can be done about all this? The people need to come to the realization that the leftist ideology is causing this extreme condition. The higher prices and the insulting taxes and the suffering of wildlife fires by not managing this forest and water in a way that keeps this type of devastation from reoccurring. If we don't make them do it, they're not going to change. And the way you make them do it is you elect them out of office. call for recall elections, get them out of there. These wildfires can be kept to a minimum with little damage to vegetation and especially to people's homes and businesses. Elect people who will actually do what they say they will do and not have an extreme ideology. Start a movement, make California great again, okay? That's where you need to start right there. When Reagan was governor, the last real Republican governor, because Arnold Schwarzenegger was a rhino, there was a surplus. He cut millions from the budget. With the 2022-23 budget, Newsom bragged about having a $98 billion surplus. Really? Where did that $98 billion surplus go? But did he really have it? Of course, you got to remember, some of that money was COVID money. Overspending and not being able to forecast revenues, he found that there was actually a $31.5 billion deficit and growing. Unlike states run by the Republican governments where there is surplus, let me give you an example. Excuse me. Oklahoma, my home state, has $2.8 billion rainy day fund right now. It may be higher than that now because I don't know what we got for 2024. Texas and Florida, who have no state income tax. You earn money in Texas, you don't pay taxes on it to the state. You gotta pay federal, but you don't pay state income tax. I will admit their property taxes are a little higher than other areas, but there's no state income tax. Texas had $32.7 billion in surplus, and Florida had $21.8 billion. It can be done with right people in office managing the money. California, with all of its resources, could eliminate income tax and have a surplus by eliminating extreme regulations and programs. Criminal laws and money spent on illegal immigration needs to stop. Time for action, people. California people first. Not hard to figure that out. And I think there's a reason for everything, and I hate that it would have to be fires, but I think California people are starting to wake up. The election showed part of it, and I think that California will may come right again. Who knows? The federal government can't account right now for $21 trillion, but does anybody care about that? Now, they were drilling Pete today, who wants to be the Secretary of Defense. They were drilling him and asking him about some companies that he was involved with, which were charitable organizations that had some deficit, like $100,000, and one of them had maybe $400,000 because they did not get the revenue in that was projected by the chief financial officer, CFO. And that happens. That can happen. Mistakes can be made. But it's not $21 trillion that has disappeared and can't be accounted for since 1998 through 2015. And to this day, they cannot pass an audit in the Department of Defense or the Defense and Housing and Urban Development. That would cost each American $65,000 to cover that $21 trillion loss. And now you can understand why the government, our federal government, has been in the hands of the Democrats more so than Republicans over the years, and have raised our deficit up to $38 trillion and growing. Now, you can see why we have such a high debt in this nation. Okay, so though each passing year diminishes the likelihood that already dispersed funds, money won't be able to track it down. It's not going to find out where this $21 trillion went. But it needs to stop now so we can start having audits that actually can account for the money that's being dispersed. to either Defense Department contractors or wherever we're spending it, we can account for every dollar. And we owe that to the American people to account for every dollar of their money being spent and what it's being spent on. The Trump presidency presents a fresh chance to prioritize accountability and the president's campaign on robust military spending and reducing government waste with this new Doge system with Elon Musk and with the Swami, I think is his name, is coming in to do this. I believe he will bring about accountability of those responsible. Let's hope California does this also. You need to find out where all that $98 billion he said he had in surplus went. You're not going to find it because it didn't exist. Okay, so that ends my broadcast. I don't really have anything else to okay, what? You know, I do have some other things to say. I really do. And that is, we as a people are not stupid. We've been lied to. We've been led down the primrose path, so to speak. We have had things forced upon us that we didn't want. I mean, a classic example of things being forced upon you was during the COVID period, where we had Dr. Fauci telling everybody, oh, wear a mask, and then we had others saying, masks don't work. And I said, well, they work when you're doing this or that. Oh, but they don't work at all because the COVID virus is too small to go right through your mask. It didn't matter what you were wearing. People got COVID, they didn't get COVID. It affected some people more than others because people already had underlying health issues. We lost more people during the Spanish flu. You could say, okay, that was 1917, okay, 1918. And it was. And we didn't have the medical technology and treatments that we do today. I know that. But you know what we had then and we still have now? Common sense. People just don't use it. Common sense tells you that you can't spend more money than you have. Yes, we have credit cards. And if you're using those credit cards and you can't pay the bill, that's not being smart. Because if you only make the minimum payment on $10,000 worth of credit card debt, it's probably going to take you 10 years or longer to pay that off. That's not good business. So what we're doing is we're writing checks for things we don't have the money for. Now, in this particular case, California, it's probably going to be $250 billion to rebuild California. $250 billion, $250 billion in damages. And then California said, hey, you know, we're not going to let insurance companies raise their rates. Well, hey, if I was an insurance company in California, I'd pull out if they wouldn't let me raise my rates, and I think many of them did. It's sad. It's really sad because people in California don't deserve that. If they were doing the conservation that they should by taking care of the underbrush, cutting down dead trees, taking care of the forest, okay? Put up some cameras around these places because I'll bet you if we had the proof, this was arson. And I'm just, this is my opinion. And my opinion also is, if we see a lot of Hollywood celebrities coming in and trying to buy this property, especially in the Palisades, where these homes that were there were built back in the 60s and 50s for $100,000 or less, and now are worth millions of dollars because of where it's located. If we see Oprah, George Soros, and others coming in trying to buy up this land, then I would want Donald Trump to do a really, really, really good investigation, because it could have been intentional then, huh? A lot of people believe that happened in Hawaii. Now, I don't like conspiracy theories, but I do know one thing in my years on this planet and my time around the world in the military: where there's smoke, there's fire. And that fire needs to be investigated thoroughly to find the truth, not half-truth, the truth. People to be held accountable, and those who committed the crimes to be arrested and prosecuted. So, without saying any more, let me say this. Time's short. We live in a fallen world, and we are fallen people. And things happen because, in my opinion, and it's not just my opinion, it happens to be true. If you don't know God Almighty, if you've not accepted Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ, as your Lord and Savior, you're walking a tightrope. And time is short. Time's not anybody's friend anymore. We're on the threshold of a lot of things that could happen. We're on the threshold of a new war breaking out to make World War II look like nothing. We're on the threshold of losing our I'm sorry to say democracy, forgive me, I don't even like that word. Our republic. We are a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy. It's not majority mob rule in this country. It is a republic, constitutional republic. Everything based on that founding document, that Constitution. I suggest highly that you search your heart. You repent of things that you're doing that you know are wrong, and that you ask Jesus Christ into your life. For the rest of my time on this planet, that's what I will preach, and I will not stop until I take my last breath. So until next time, God bless each and every one of you. I can't say it enough. God loves you, I love you, and I believe that that we need to continue to make a push for the things I talked about today and the things that have happened in the past that we know need to be looked into, and we need to start using common sense when we decide who we're going to vote for. So until next time, God bless each and every one, and I'm out.